Narayanam namaskritam naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayodhirat nashtaprayashu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagavatiyotima shoki bhaktir bhavati naishtiki nigamaka paduru garitam phalam shukam makaramita dravi samhitam pibata bhagatam rasamalayam mahora hora si bhuvi bhavgaham Krishna swadama bhagate dharmikini saram Karonastad Vishamasha Paranako Dunoditaham Anarto Pashamam Shakshan Yogam Logasajana Jo Chakre Satpada Samitam Atmanamistamuna the Granti Khan Orbanti Abhiti Itam Bhutagana Hari Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandhu Jigapate Gopisha Gopika Kantara the Kantanamostute Jayatam Surato Pango Mama Minir Matergati Matsapasha Parambhajara Madanamahanam Sriman Rasarasaram Vivam Sipada Karsan Beno Senaragopi Gopinata Sriyasaram Divyad Vrindaranya Kapadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Shima Sanishto Sri Sri Radha Shiragovina Prestanavihi Sevamanushmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanitaya Jigaritaya Krishnaya Govinaya Namo Namah Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Guru Rajita Mangalam Panidi Kaksho Mangalaya Tanohri Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasadevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodhyate Om Mahadevi Cha Vidmahi Vishnu Patni Cha Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodhyate Om Aganati Manandasya Ganagana Salakya Chaksurun Miritam Yanatashmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Sayam Rupa Karamayam Dharati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamaram Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Gaganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Larita Shri Vishakan Vitam Stam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutare Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanam Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachadine Nirvishesa Sanyori Praskata Desana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sariho Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Thanks for joining us, all of you out there. Sundari Priya, Brent, Anjali, Natasha came over last night with Larry and she cleaned up my laptop so that I can now produce more programs, more MP3s, more MP4s, more podcasts, more YouTube material with less trouble. Thank you very much, Natasha. From only having 1 gigabyte of free space, she put me up to 40. So I can't wait to start editing and processing shows that are to come in the future. Good morning, Rakesh. Good to see everybody. Brit, we lost Ram, as you know, on Sunday. I posted a gallery of pictures of Ram's 25 years of serving the temple, pictures of him at the Lama Fest, pictures of him negotiating obstacles in the obstacle, pictures of him in the back country. And in the comment thread, Britta had better pictures than me from one hike that she took. Really, really stunning pictures of Ram out there in the back country with Britta, and Alan at one point, our yoga teacher, appeared. So thank you for those, Britta. That was a great contribution. Good morning, Govinda Dev. In our WhatsApp thread last night, somebody sent me pictures of the feast that Angad and Padapanka had cooked for the Nityananda appearance day up in Salt Lake City. Brent was there, I know. Govinda Dev was there. Sundari Priya was there. Wow, that was an amazing feast. Those fellows did a really bang-up job. It makes me wish I could have been both in Spanish Fork and in Salt Lake City at the same time, because that was an amazing feast that they had. Another bit of news is that, good morning, Jean. Jean is 69 today. Let's wish Jean a happy birthday. All right. Another bit of news is that Govinda Charan, who's the organizer, deputed and delegated by his guru, Indradumna Swami, to organize the Sadhusang festival, which, in case you haven't heard, is taking place over Memorial Day weekend right here in Spanish Fork, Utah. He's arriving this morning. He arrived last night, spending the night with Ras Vilas, and Ras Vilas is bringing him down And he's going to spend all day today and all day tomorrow finalizing the last details, the sound, the cooking distribution, the accommodation for the devotees. There'll be a huge tent, big as a football field, in which all the kirtan will take place. He'll check out the power connections. He's rented a toilet, one of those trailer toilets, which is really spiffy for all the nicely dressed, garbed devotee boys and girls. Just lots and lots of minutiae, lots of details. But they announced it officially yesterday, sent out an email, presumably to hundreds, if not thousands of devotees. They've updated on their website, and Indradumna Swami has put the announcement on his Facebook page. So we are a go. We are a go. They said that tickets would be available end of February. Most of the tickets that will be initially available will be for people coming in from out of town. So they'll spend $250 or so to buy a ticket, which will include all their lodging and their food and the kirtan. Later on, after they talk with the cooks and see what their capacities are and interact with us, they will have day passes available also, so you can come in as a commuter without worrying about accommodation or any of that. That'll be a detail which may not be available until, say, mid-March or so, but wait for it, expect it, be excited about it. And speaking of excitement, we're going to talk about pure love today. That's our subject matter. And it all comes about through revisiting, I think for the 5th or 6th time, this statement by Narada Muni in the 6th chapter, the 1st canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 26th verse. Namami antasya hata papatiran guyani bhajadi kita shmaran gam paryatam stishyamanu spriha kalim valim pradiksham vimaro vimatsaraham. Thus I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord, Hare Krishna, by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities in the material world, chanting and remembering the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are fully benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, satisfied, humble, and non-envious. The personal form, which was revealed to Narada Muni briefly, just 1 minute you see it, 1 minute you don't. That personal form was like Narada Muni receiving a snake bite. When you receive a snake bite, the venom immediately attacks all your nerves, and it changes you forever. I remember I spent a year in Israel on a kibbutz, and there was one man, Abi his name was. He was about 50, very handsome, very athletic, lean, tanned, curly, gray hair, movie star handsome. But he walked like, one of those zombie movies. He walked all spastic. So I asked someone, I said, why does Abi walk so funny? And they said he was out one night about 10 years ago after dark, and he got bit by a zephyr. Zephyrs are the vipers which live in Israel, and it attacked his nervous system, and he was never fluent. He was never graceful again, ever after that. So it's not a light thing. It's not something you can just kind of pass off or blow off. When you get bit by a poisonous viper, your life will never be the same in a negative way. But when Narada Muni when his eyes saw the beautiful form of the Lord, it was like he'd gotten bit, a lethal injection, lethal to all of his material desires. It attacked his material nerve endings, his material ambitions, his material appetites, and it killed him. It killed him. And from that moment on, the time that he saw the beautiful form of the Lord, he was never the same. He only wanted to see that form again. No longer did he have a scintilla of attraction for material names, forms, and qualities. And there's no need for me to convince you of this by logic or argument. It is something that you experience for yourself. Bhakti panashnavu viraktaranyatacha. If I'm eating, every bite I take and digest, my hunger goes away. The more I eat, the more satisfied and complacent I become. and the less agitated I am. I don't need to convince you of that. I don't need someone to write me a certificate. It's self-evident. So what Narada Muni experienced was not unique. Vitaraga Vyakaro Madmayam Putamad Bhavamaka. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, many persons became purified through my holy name, through my darshan, either as a deity or personally appearing like Narada Muni. And ever after that, the purificatory effect of purely chanting the holy name or being blessed by the darshan of the Lord, however briefly it may be, is that you no longer are in the least bit attracted to Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, Kavitam Ba, Jagadisham, Mama Janmani, Janmanishari, Bhavatad, Bhaktai Twahi, wealth in the millions, worldly fame, wealth in the millions, fame, worldly acclaim, beautiful women, all are lame compared to the champagne of chanting the holy name. It's like the Caru version of that verse from the Shikshastakam. Characteristic of pure devotees. Characteristic. Now they're mixed devotees, and they serve the Lord in order to get something. And they're all over the world, and they're the most prominent. When we think of devotees, when we think of God-conscious people, we think of people who go to the temple. They give $1, they expect to get $1 back. They go to the temple with their shopping list. Krishna, give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. But the pure devotees, and that's good. Akama, Sarvakama, Moksha Kama, many people have gone to Krishna with material requests and material desires, and Krishna has either given them to them or not given them to them, but one way or another he purifies them, Yashahamanugramani, of those material desires. And when they come to the level of pure means unalloyed. Their devotion is not motivated by desire for fame, name, wealth, prestige, family members. None of that has the least bit of an appeal to them. All they want to do is see Krishna. They don't even worship Krishna because he's God. Why do people worship Krishna because he's God? Well, why do people defer to the boss? Because he pays the salary. Through the boss, you get the extra car. You get to buy the bigger house. You get the membership at the country club. You get the vacation at St. Thomas. So naturally, you're fawning, you're kowtowing to the boss or to the politician or to anybody who's power. Why do we defer to them? Because from them comes our sense gratification. However, when you become a pure devotee and you no longer want self-serving, materialistic sense gratification, rather you want to serve the Lord, then a total transformation. There's a more difference between Nietzsche once said there's more difference between one type of human than another than there is between man and the animal. Just because you've got a human body doesn't mean you're civilized, doesn't mean you're cultivated, doesn't mean you're God conscious, because there's plenty of people who are walking around with human bodies who are worse than the animals. They do more harm, more damage to themselves, to others, and to the environment, to the things that God gave us than the animals could possibly ever do. Similarly, there's more difference between the highly purified devotees of the Lord and those who worship the Lord with material motivations in mind than there is between the man and the animals. It may look similar. Birds, crows, as we mentioned yesterday. What is it? Oh, flies and bees. There's two examples. There's the crows and the swans. They're birds, but they're not birds of a feather. And then we talked yesterday about the flies who are attracted to open sores and the bees who are attracted to the honey. They're both insects, but there's a world of difference in their consciousness. The flies just looking for stool, open sores. Just like they're critics, they're gossips, they're backbiters, they're betrayers, they're envious people, they're like the flies. The bees are like the devotees. The devotees, they don't have any interest in others' bad qualities. They're only attracted to others' good qualities. They minimize their faults and maximize their virtues. And this is a formula for success in your marriage, for success in raising your children, for success and harmony amongst your co-workers in the workplace. This care and concern for others is getting out of yourself. So pure devotees of the Lord, they do not defer to Krishna because he's God. They do not love or worship Krishna because he's God. If they did that, they would be worshiping him with their own agenda. They would be worshiping him because he's the power and he will give them what they want. So if you want to come up to the level of purely serving the Lord, the element of Krishna being God has to be taken out and thrown away. The pure devotees of Krishna worship Krishna just because he's Krishna. Krishna is not the goal of impersonal Brahman to merge in. Krishna is not your order supplier, your order carrier. Krishna is just Krishna. Krishna is your friend. Krishna is your son. Krishna is your superior. Krishna is your life. At the end of the road of all the practice of sadhana and the mental speculators, the yogis, at the end of the road, your Krishna is just your life. That's all. He's not God. He's just your life. You even sometimes find in scriptures where devotees seem to be speaking about Krishna in a condescending way. They seem to be criticizing or even mocking Krishna. Now, it's important to note that these statements are born out of pure, loving sentiments. They are so unaware of Krishna as God that they even speak sometimes disparagingly or demeaningly of him. After Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and Arjuna said, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitam Param. You are the supreme abode, you are the supreme purifier. And then Arjuna he said, oh my gosh, we sit on the bed together, and you've told me about your military exploits. And I've said, oh yes, you are very great. I was being sarcastic to you in the way friends are, You relish criticizing and speaking sarcastically to your friends. So Krishna would describe some battle with Salva where Arjuna was not present. And by his tone, Arjuna would seem to be indicating that Krishna is exaggerating his own role. And actually, Krishna could never be guilty of exaggerating. In fact, in the case of Salva, I think he single-handedly destroyed Salva and his whole army, his whole city. But because this is what friends do, they criticize each other without envy, without competition. So Arjuna said, oh my gosh, this Krishna just showed me his universal form. He showed me all the Kauravas rushing into his mouth and being crushed between his teeth. I spoke sarcastically to him when we were sitting on the bed. He has that moment of... Similarly, there's a story in the Nectar Devotion. One of Krishna's Rasala, Raktala. He's wrestling with Krishna. He's wrestling with Krishna and he's getting the better. He's going for the pin. He's going for the takedown. And somewhere it occurs to him that Krishna is God. And he stops. He stiffens up. He goes all white. And the whole pleasure of acting as Krishna's friend goes away. Krishna is God. He's used to being kowtowed to. He's used to the hosannas and the hallelujahs and the worship and the protocol and the etiquette. And he gets tired of it sometimes. He gets tired of it. He doesn't always want to be treated as a superior. Sometimes he wants to taste the relish of being talked down to, of being treated as an inferior. But that's not going to wash with those who are envious of him. It's only going to be possible. He's only going to empower and allow those who are his intimate friends and eternal associates to deal with him in that way. There's a verse in the 10th Itam Satam Brahma Sukhana Bhutya. Well, we're going to get to that in a little bit. Let me run this one past you first. It's from the Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Charita. Saka Sudha Saka Kare Skandeyana. Tumi Kanboda Tumi Lokena. Listen to how the Cowherd Boys are speaking to Krishna. It seems impertinent. If you and I did that, we might expect a thunderbolt to come out of the sky and turn us into ashes. But there's been Leela and Gokula and some or other, and there's wrestling between Krishna and his peers, Cowherd Boys, and Krishna gets bested, or Krishna's team loses. And Krishna doesn't always want to win. He wants to lose sometimes. He wants to taste that pleasure as well. And so the Cowherd Boys look at Krishna after Krishna's team has lost some competition and they're having to undergo the punishment. Sometimes when Krishna's team would lose, the penalty would be they would have to carry the winners on their shoulders for some period of time. So now a member of the winning team is on Krishna's shoulders. Krishna is carrying them on his shoulders as the penalty for having lost the contest. And while he's on his shoulders, to add insult to injury, as it were, he's calling down, he's on Krishna's shoulders, and he's calling, Saka Sudhakare Skandeyana. You think, Krishna, you think you're a big man, but we just defeated your team in wrestling or in climbing or in running. So what kind of a big man are you? If you're such a big man, how come I'm riding on your shoulders? You and I are just the same. Don't try this at home. This is statements pouring out from the hearts of those who know nothing but Krishna. Krishna is their life and soul. And Krishna himself, because of their pure devotion, they're not holding back anything in their attachment for Krishna. Krishna says, Na parayaham niravadyan, shoshadu bibadayu, yomabhajan durjaya shringana sambricha tava patiyantabram. He says to his devotees, your devotion to me is so pure, it's free from any desire of wealth or fame or number of followers. As a result of your having given yourself totally and completely to me, I have become your debtor. Even in a lifetime of Lord Brahma, I could not repay you. So even amongst devotees who worship the Lord to get something from him, even amongst a higher level of devotees who worship Krishna, and as a result of their worship, Krishna showers blessings on them. Good example of this are the queens of Krishna and Dwarka. They're attracted, of course, by Krishna's loving features, by his incomparable, inimitable form. But they're also quite comfortable in the palatial settings. They're also quite comfortable living in unparalleled opulence. However, that's not the case with the devotees in Vrindavan. Krishna himself indicates a difference between levels of devotees. He says, Aishwarya ganate sabhajaga Aishwarya stilati praminamanu. He says, when someone worships me, and there's opulence, there's protocol, there's formality, like when we do arti, you prepare it, everything's very clean, you make sure you have the paraphernalia available, you ring the bell, you sing songs if possible, and you offer incense, flower, fruit, lamp, leaf, and water, and try to pick the best items in each category to offer the Lord. There's some protocol, there's some formality there. But Krishna in Vrindavan says, worship of me, which is permeated by Aishwarya, a sense of opulence, of lavishness, is not as pleasing to me as the critical words of my pure devotees in Vrindavan. Priyayadi mana kari karai vartaveda shtuti hairishimana. He says, I would rather hear the cutting, critical, sarcastic comments of Radharani than the beautiful hymns of the Vedas. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pasanti Suryoti Vivachak Suratatam Yabi Pashu Bhavanyavam Jagavam Saminati Yadpara Param. Om Sahasra Shirsha Parusha Sahasraksa Sahasapat Sabamam Vishada Chadistadisambanam Purishevagam Sarvam Yaksputam Yaksabhavyam Tamritam Tisharina Adina Yarina Taroti. Krishna would rather hear a cutting, sarcastic put down from Radharani than he would the reverential, beautifully sung and intonated hymns of the Vedas by the qualified Brahmins. Oh. Prabhupada mentioned, he uses this phrase. He says, devotees are correctly situated in transcendental relationship with Krishna, are attracted by loving features, not by a godless display of opulences. And that's a curious wording, isn't it? A godless display of opulence. Because when we think of God, traditionally, from our Judeo-Christian background, we think of opulence. We go to God to get stuff because we know He's the owner and the proprietor. And if he gives us a nod, we can enjoy like a king and like a queen. But Prabhupada says to worship God because of the opulences that He exhibits and that He can share with you is a mood of godlessness. Because to love God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might means not to love Him for what you can get from Him, or not to love Him for what He's wearing, or not to love Him for the palatial surroundings, but to love Him because you can't do anything else. You're bitten by the snake. You're infected by the poison of total attraction to Krishna. Yam Shaimashinda Machinta Gunashurupam. You know, if a beautiful movie star, male or female, walks into the room, we'll be overwhelmed momentarily by their beautiful facial features. Maybe they're wearing something, their arms are not covered. We're looking at their arms, which have been toned in the gym, and looking at their ankles, their calves. And we appreciate the nicely formed bodily features of an attractive man or woman. But our eyes roam. Our eyes roam from the cheeks to the forehead, to the nose, to the lips, to the chin, to the neck, to the biceps, to the triceps, to the elbows, to the calves, to the ankles, to the knees. And eventually, we get sated. After a few minutes, we get sated. We don't have to look at that person any longer. We've roved. Our eyes have wandered over all the various parts of the bodies, taken in the good features, noted it, categorized it. There's a certain level of lust which is evoked or incited or ignited as a result of those meditations. But we no longer look at it as an artistic, perfectly formed, divine object. However, the beauty of Krishna is such that if Krishna were to appear before you, whatever the first part of Krishna's divine form your eyes would happen to fall upon, you could look at that forever. You could actually fall into the vision of Krishna's earlobes. That more appropriate for the devotees, because we like to look down at the feet of the Lord, thinking of ourselves as servants of His lotus feet, atoms. Because we like to meditate on ourselves as atoms at the lotus feet of the Lord. Were you to look at His little toe, you could look at it eternally. Your eyes would not be moved to then go to another part of His body. You could be riveted by any single part of His body forever. Never get tired. The beauty of Krishna cannot be in any way, shape, or form compared to the beauty of an ordinary flesh and blood person in this material world. And the associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. Now, Dwarka is one thing. Vaikuntha is one thing. There are many pure devotees. Rukmini lives there. She's the goddess of fortune. But Rukmini herself wants to enter into the Vrindavan pastimes, where you enjoy with Krishna without all of the opulences and surroundings. Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumada Srimad Ratnagana Shima Shanashto Sri Sri Radha Shilagavad Prestilabihi Sebhumana Shmarami. This picture of Vrindavan, there's a swing, there's a julan. Radha and Krishna are swinging on the swing. Neither one of them is dressed particularly opulently. Of course, they're Satchidananda. They're full of knowledge, bliss, and eternity. Their clothes are made of ecstatic feelings of emotions. But to the external vision, they're not particularly dressed as a king or a queen. They're just a cowherd boy, a cowherd girl, swinging on a swing. It's a nice swing. It's decorated with flowers. All the associates have made Nikunjayuno Rakiheli Jijai. They've made a wonderful, tasteful arrangement in the bowers of Vrindavan. The swing is decorated with flowers and festoons and all. But it's not the swing that you'd find in the palace of a king. And there are trees around. If you've ever been to Vrindavan, Vrindavan's not like a rainforest with lush tropical trees and big wide leaves. Vrindavan has its own mood. The trees, to our current vision, are not particularly opulent. Some of them are stunted, a little bit twisted. So there's trees surrounding this bower where the divine couple, Radha Govinda, are being swung back and forth by their associates. And the trees, they're not sequoias, they're not palm trees, they're not the celebrated trees in movie stars and movies and mundane literatures. But the secret behind these trees is they give the devotee anything the devotee wants with which to worship the Supreme Lord. So these trees, although they're very plain, ordinary, not necessarily exceptionally looking trees, they're not particularly big, they're not particularly broad, they don't throw out a lot of shade. There's not a lot to be said about them in terms of physical, natural attributes, but the trees are wish-fulfilling desire trees. They can produce anything, not just fruits and flowers, but anything for the service of the Lord. And in this rural, simple environment, there are cows wandering here and there. Cows, what could be more ordinary than cows? But these cows are far from ordinary. They are Sarabi. Chintamani Pakara Sadmashu Kalpavriksha Lakshabrita Surabhiya Vipalyantam Lakshmi Sadbrahma Sevima Gobinamari Purusham Tamahanga. These cows are capable of giving unlimited quantities of milk. And nearby there's Nanda and Yashoda, who are always looking out for the well-being of their son, whom they think is dependent upon them. Nanda Kima Karo Brahmam Shreyamipa Yashoda Brahmahabla Papam Yashamadari. The question is asked in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, who are these Nanda Baba? And who is this Yashoda Mata? Who are these people? What have they done in their past lives to be able to chastise Krishna and force him to take his bath, to call him in at the end of the day from playing with his friends and threaten punishments to him? Who is this Nanda Maharaj that when he asks Krishna, Krishna brings his slippers, carry them on the top of his head? Who is this Mother Yashoda from whose breasts Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sucks milk? And one thing I'll tell you about them is their anya vilasatasyam jnana karmani anukulena bhaktir uttama. They are the highest devotees, inasmuch as they are not loving or worshiping Krishna for any material gain or any material return. They're not interested in mystic yogic perfections. They're not interested in becoming one or merging with the Lord. What to speak of material opulences? Like Prabhupada says, they are not attracted by a godless display of opulence. They just love Krishna because he's Krishna. He's their Krishna. He's their son, their friend. And in Vrindavan, there's none of the opulence. Of Vaikuntha, none of the opulence. There's more opulence because every atom, Every particle of oxygen is surcharged with pure, unalloyed Krishna prema. So the opulence of Vrindavan is actually the greatest opulence because their love runs riot. Pure prema reigns supreme. None of the associates of Krishna in that transcendental abode want Krishna to show his opulences. One time Krishna's friends accused him of eating dirt. Mother Yashoda asked Krishna. Krishna said, oh, they're just envious, they lie. She said, well, if you didn't eat dirt, then just open your mouth so that I can verify that. And Krishna opened his mouth, and as you all know, Mother Yashoda saw the universal form. She saw the demigods. She saw the bhutas, the ghosts, the demons, the pishakas. She saw past, present, and future. She saw herself looking in the mouth of Krishna. She didn't enjoy it. She got dizzy. She lost her orientation. She didn't know what was up and down. She forgot. She started to have an identity crisis, a panic attack. What's happening to my baby? Who is he? And the very thought that that personality who drinks milk from her breast, whom she ties up to a grinding mortar, whom she forcibly brings in at the end of the day for dinner after playing with his friends, to think that that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead totally turns her off. It's like pouring cold water. Then they think, if this is God, how many offenses have I made? How offensive am I thinking he needs me to feed him? He needs me to take his bath, give him his bath. He needs me to put him in bed at night. And so Mother Yashoda just blew it off, and she said, she just put it out of her mind. She just denied that it even happened. And she said, okay, Krishna, don't eat dirt again. Don't eat dirt again. Here's that verse I was alluding to earlier in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Itam satam brahma sukanu bhujja dasam gatanam paradaivatenam mayasitam navavikanam sakam vicharahu krita punya punjam. Who are these cowherd boys who defeat Krishna's team in running or jumping or sporting contests, and then who extract a penalty from Krishna and his mates by forcing them to carry them on their shoulders as punishment? Who are these? Well, they're certainly not monas who aspire to become one with the Lord. No, they're not monas who try to subtract all the qualities of the Lord from him. No. Monas are more like enemies than could ever be friends to Krishna. They're not byproducts of material nature. You treat the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the way that they've treated him, without devotion, without purity, without love, man, your future's... I don't want to be nearby you because I might get hit by the flak or burned by the blow off of the thunderbolts like that. Who are these boys? Succumb. They're friends of God. They're friends of the Supreme Personality of God to the point that they don't even recognize him as God. Who are they? It is a Sakam region of Krita Punya. They are living beings who in many, many past lives not only did not perform, even in their minds, a single sinful act, but they accumulated mountains of pious activities. That is the identity of those boys who are playing with the Supreme Personality of God. And we have this description further on. All the boys would typically, on a typical Vrindavan day, be variously engaged. Some would blow their flutes. Others had bugles made of the horns of various buffaloes. Some of the boys would imitate the buzzing of the bumblebees. Others would duplicate the voice of the cuckoos. Some boys would imitate the flying birds by running after the birds, shadows on the ground. Some imitated the beautiful movements and attractive postures of the swans. Some sat down with the ducks, sitting silently, and others imitated the jubilant dancing of peacocks. Some boys attracted the young monkeys in the trees. Some jumped up into the trees, chasing and imitating the monkeys, and some made monkey-like faces that the monkeys were accustomed to, and some jumped from one branch to another. Some boys went to the waterfalls and crossed over the river, jumping with the frogs, and when they saw their own reflections in the water, they would laugh uproariously. They would also condemn the sounds of their own echoes and insult themselves through talking back to their echoes. It says in this way, all the Cowherd Boys variously used to play, and in every act they're looking, is Krishna watching? Am I impressing Krishna? Did Krishna notice what I did? And in this way, all the Cowherd Boys used to play daily with Krishna, who is the source of the Brahman effulgence for jnanis, mental speculators desiring to merge into that effulgence, who is the supreme Lord of Vaikuntha, Lord of Dwarka for devotees who have accepted the role of eternal servitorship, and who for ordinary persons is just a historical personality or another ordinary child. It says the Cowherd Boys, having accumulated the results of pious activities for many, many lives, were able to associate in this way with the Supreme Personality of God. And it says then, who can explain their good fortune? As these boys and girls who eternally associate with Krishna have nothing to do with the mundane. Krishna's qualities, his attractive feature, name, form, pastimes, and paraphernalia similarly have nothing to do with mundane qualities. They are all of them permeated with Satchidananda, knowledge, bliss, and eternity. There are innumerable qualities of the Lord, and one is attracted by one quality, another is attracted by another quality, another is attracted by another quality. In this way, transcendental, loving exchanges of the highest purity go on, and sometimes the subordinate devotee tries to, out of love and affection, predominate over the supreme predominator, the personality of Godhead. It is concluded that one who lovingly engages with the Lord as if they were a friend, as if they were a mother, as if they were a father, and whom the Lord accepts them as such, supersedes the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. The unconquerable Lord is conquered himself by the pure, unmotivated, uninterrupted love of his devotees. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you very much for your sharing this time with me. Rob, I'm sorry I didn't even see you when you asked to enter. I probably didn't get any of that unless you moved over to Facebook, am I right? Anyway, I'm sorry that I dropped the ball on that. I know you weren't there when I started, and then I covered that part of the screen with some of my notes. So hopefully you went over to Facebook and caught some of that, because I think it was worth catching if I don't mind saying so myself. We were high today. We talked about the highest subject matters, and we're not done. We'll come back tomorrow, finish off the series tomorrow with Wisdom Wednesday with some more realizations and reflections on pure love, Krishna Prema. Natasha, thank you for being with us. Rakesh, Anjali, Brent, Sundari Priya, Jean, happy birthday. Britta, tuning in from her smartphone. Govinda Dev, Britta says she loved Brahm. We all love Brahm. We miss him. But, the rewards, even a little service to the Lord, are so great. We've got to be happy. Got to be happy. We miss him, but we're not mourning. We're not sad. We're not lamenting, because he's getting the blessings. Natasha, she says, she was reading a story the other day that said, if all you do is come to Krishna with your problems, then he will take care of it, but he will give you 10 more problems, because that is the only way he gets you to come to him. Whatever you come to him, he will amplify tenfold. Isn't that interesting? You come to him with a problem, so then he'll give you 10 more problems to mold you and make you. But if you come to him with a little love, and you try to do it purely, without thinking of the benefit to yourself, then he's going to amplify that. That's a wonderful, I think you planted a seed here, Natasha. Food for thought, yeah. And initially we talked about Arjuna, so at that point Anjali mentioned that Arjuna was the friend and brother-in-law of Krishna. Gary, Alona is our old friend. She would organize the yoga classes when we do the Festival of Colors in Riverside. Now she's living in Tennessee, I think. Hare Krishna, Alona. Love to you. Anjali says, black snake. Yes. Vinod, selfless love. Anjali, Sarabi, cows. Something here about Satyabhama. Kadamba, flower trees. Satyabhama. Yep, that would have been another story. There's so many stories. So many stories, so many devotees, so many pastimes, so much variety. It says that one day scientists may be able to know the number of stars in the sky, the number of drops of water in the ocean, the number of particles of sand on the beach, the number of molecules in this material creation, but they'll never, ever come to the end of or be able to account the unlimited qualities of Sri Krishna. So as many qualities there are as many devotees. Different devotees are attracted to different qualities. Never ends. It's unlimited, ever increasing, expanding, eternal. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama.